kind of turned that moment, and all of a sudden Storm was chasing Aldis, and Cabana is in a feud with Aaron Stevens. Wait, what? The Rock and Roll Express is relevant again? What?
Yeah, I mean...
Enough of this goddamn question mark. Enough. He's not entertaining. He's not fun. He doesn't look funny. There's nothing to like about question mark except for the crowd deciding that they like him now. And since there's only 300 people in attendance, they can get a guy over without even thinking. There is nothing to like about question mark. And he's even in the beginning IVRs now.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of question mark at all, but apparently the reason that the crowd is marking out for him is because he's actually Josephus in a mask.
Yeah, I mean anybody that looks at him can see that. Is if you've been watching this product, he looks like Josephus. He's got the same body build. He's got the same mannerisms.
Well, I just hope Trevor Murdoch kicks his ass because I'm a huge Trevor Murdoch fan and have been for years.
Yeah, I am too. I miss his Cade and Murdoch thing. I never really saw him as a singles wrestler. I did like the match that he and Aldis had. I thought that was a fun match. But that was another thing that jumped out at me about NWA Powerrr, and it's hard for me to really talk about this card because it's crap. But why did the studio have to be emptied so that Aaron Stevens could come out and talk, and then they had this one-on-one match with and then the whole Shakespeare thing and him throwing up, and it was just a weird 10-minute segment.
I have no idea. It was ridiculous. Because it was him and question mark against the what are those guys' names? The brawler.
No. It was just question mark against one of those guys, the Osborns or something like that.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
The Osmonds or Osborns or I don't know, whatever their name is. But it ended up just being question mark against him, and I don't know. It was bad. It was really bad.
Oh, that's not bad at all. Sorry. Totally off topic.
I'm not even sure what you're talking about. Don't even care.
No, next year you and Melissa and I are talking about going to All Out too.
Right.
And actually, a week before that, in Wrigley Field, they have that big Motley Crue tour.
Oh, okay.
And Melissa just shot me the ticket prices for that tour, and it's a lot better than I expected.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm not going to that. So
the highest one is $224.50.
That's not bad.
No, not for Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett. So anyway.
Anyway, back to on topic. If there is a topic with this.
It's slightly on topic, I suppose. But yeah, I know the topic is the Rock and Roll Express. That's a Rock and Roll Express tour, and here we are with the geriatrics getting a shot at the wild cards for the Tag Team Championship.
In the main event.
In the main event. I mean, other than James Storm getting a shot at the world title when he was supposed to get a shot at the world title because he lost the match where he was supposed to get a shot at the world title, why in the world are the Rock and Roll Express challenging the wild cards for the tag titles? I'm not convinced it's actually going to be in the main event. I mean, that's how it's currently listed, but still, the Rock and Roll Express, really? I mean, I realize they're eight-time NWA Tag Team Champions, but they're 8-time NWA Tag Team Champions 30 years ago. What have you done for me lately?
Well, he did give us one of the worst Canadian destroyers of all time.
On Dynamite, not on NWA Powerrr.
No, that was on a pay-per-view even.
Oh, that's right, it was, wasn't it? I forgot about that. Yeah, that was at Full Gear. You're right. But still, it was not for NWA. It was actually for AEW.
Right, but still, that's the only thing that got him this spot.
I don't know if my enjoyment of a promotion has gone downhill any faster than it has for Powerrr. The first weeks I was super into it. Even the first week when you were a little down on it just because you were afraid of what it was going to be like going forward, I was still into it, and I was into it for that first 3 or 4, maybe even 5 weeks, and then since then, it's just plummeted for me.
Since that standoff, whatever that weird little standoff was where everybody that even thought about the main event came out and just stood there and stared at each other, that was the moment it just went downhill.
Yeah.
The next week we had the...
Go ahead.
The next week we had the debut of Question Mark, and then we had...
I want chocolate milk.
Of course you want chocolate milk.
Not a good thing.
What do you say?
Kid.
Please? I put a little vitamin C in there, so...
Get some orange juice instead.
No, orange juice is horrible for him. He's allergic to it.
Oh, that'd be funny then. Give him some orange juice.
No, that would not be funny. I'm sick enough. I don't want to stay up all night. Are you done? Is that all you need was a little drink? All right, well, next time you can come out and just do it. You don't have to ask.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night, Arlo.
Yeah, don't say that. He'll be back in 35 seconds.
Okay.
Now that I gave him free reign of the chocolate milk.
I just want to say, I know I give Jeff a hard time about Arlo sometimes, but he really is a cute kid. I really like his kids. So.
Oh, good. At least somebody likes someone in my family.
Yeah, you're talking about Question Mark has come in, and what else were you going to stay on the list?
Question Mark came in, then the Rock and Roll Express became a thing, and then, Aaron Stevens quits 1 week dressed in his underwear and a pirate shirt, and the next week he's back attacking people, and he's considered one of the top people in the company.
Even though he hasn't won a single match.
Well, he did. He got the pinfall over Cabana and Starks.
Oh, I didn't see that match. That must have been on the
that was
finale, huh?
No, that was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
2-3 weeks ago. It was the week before they had that stupid little nobody in the studio thing.
Was that was that a tag match?
No, that was the night he came back. Yeah, he won in a tag match, but that was the night that he came back and attacked Starks, and then Cabana and Starks versus Stevens and Question Mark became the main event, and then Question Mark knocked out Ricky Starks, and Aaron Stevens got the pin.
Oh, okay. So I guess it explains why it's a triple threat match, but it's ridiculous.
But why is he considered a top contender? When they were running down their top contender list, they said people like Eli Drake and James Storm and Aaron Stevens, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, back it up. First of all, where was Ken Anderson? Where was, some Colt Cabana? I mean, Colt Cabana, I don't look at Colt Cabana like I did 10 years ago. I don't look at him as the same threat he is. He gets better and better the more he's back in the ring. And, I mean, you and I both noted that. But he's not anywhere near that top contender that he was. And if the extent of the main event picture is going to be Eli Drake, Ken Anderson, James Storm, and Nick Aldis, I'm going to get really sick of that in a real hurry.
Well, before this organization really became prominent, I could see why people would have wanted Eli Drake back for sure. Like you and I did, right?
And I still think he's...
I'm making a point here. I can see where people were clamoring for James Storm to be back. I've never really been a big fan of his, but I know that a lot of people have been. I can see why people would want Ken Anderson back, and I'm sure there were people that wanted see the Rock and Roll Express again, and Aaron Stevens.
Not anybody under 50.
And Aaron Stevens even not under that name, but clearly, the person that's on this card that people were clamoring the most to see was Melina. Are you fucking kidding me? They have treated her return like she's like some kind of conquering hero.
And all she is really a manager.
Right. And not anybody that I had even remembered even existed, much less really wanted to see back in a wrestling ring. Between that and devoting almost half of an episode to Thunder Rosa's MMA career, that almost those two things combined single-handedly almost just made me want to turn this promotion off for good. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of at that fence with that too, where why are we wasting time on this? And because of shows like this and Ring of Honor and shows that are just bad, we've gotten away from New Japan, and every time I turn on New Japan, it's a main event quality match. You know, it every single time is a pay-per-view style match, regardless of pay-per-view or not. And here I am surrounding myself with garbage like NWA and Ring of Honor and what they've been lately, and I'm missing out on New Japan and everything they're doing over there.
Yeah, and as bad as the final battle card on Friday night looks, it still looks better than this card for NWA on Saturday.
Oh, well, yeah, at least there's a couple matches on that I care to see. Not many, but at least there's a couple. And I'll probably end up watching both of them, and I'll probably end up commenting on both of them. But I think I'm done with... I'm going to kind of treat NWA kind of like I have been Ring of Honor the last 6 to 8 months. I'm just watching their pay-per-views. The rest of it is not worth it. And MLW, if they don't really get their shit in gear, and now after their biggest foo-foo, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to watch them, too.
You know, for this show right here, I mean, you said you probably end up watching it. I would probably end up watching Trevor Murdoch versus Question Mark just to see Trevor Murdoch, Drake versus Anderson, and then the world title match. That's probably it.
Yeah, and that's probably the extent of mine too. I mean, I have no interest at all in that women's match. I don't know what they're doing with Thunder Rosa and Marty Bell, but they're not doing it right. You know, Cole Cabana, his matches can be fun. I think him against Ricky Starks would be fun, but Aaron Stevens needs to be a manager, not an active wrestler, because he's good at drawing heat, but that's about it.
And I'll say this right now: if the Rock and Roll Express win those titles from the wild cards, I'm completely done with this promotion.
Yeah, I won't even watch pay-per-views if that happens. I'm just done.
Me too.
Just absolutely done. And, you know, Ring of Honor has me kind of on the fence now after the way they've treated Marty Scurll. And, you know, now they must realize that Marty's not coming back because they just published an interview with Flip Gordon talking about why he became why he's the mercenary now. And he literally said, I became a mercenary so that Marty Scurll could be Marty's understudy. Basically saying I'm taking over at some point.
Well, you know, the stuff with Kelly Klein also was a big turning point for me in Ring of Honor as well.
Well, yeah, there was that. There was the treatment of Marty. There was the way that they handled this whole Roosh thing. They've just made some really questionable decisions over the last few months. Like, Jesus, last half a year.
How caught up are you on Impact?
I'm a couple weeks behind. I'm jumping back and forth with that. I just haven't had the energy to watch it because I've been trying to keep up on some of this other crap that I probably should just let go away.
I was wondering if you watched Throwback Throwdown.
No, I didn't see that.
What was that WWE thing on YouTube that they did where it was like a fake old time promotion? What's that?
I don't remember. When was that?
Well, they did it for a while, and it was like where they would have like their guys dress up as other people and things like that. But that's basically what the Throwback Throwdown was for Impact. And it was
okay. That could be interesting.
Impact Commonwealth Wrestling Federation or something like that. And it's funny because it was like an entire episode where everybody was playing a different character. Like Sami Callihan was a Jim Cornette type character. He even had the tennis racket and stuff, and he was managing Cumberbund something, which was Ethan Page actually playing the role of the Commonwealth Television Champion, and he was in a loser must leave town match also for the title against Downtown Dirty Brown, I think his name was, which was Millie Mack's character. So
okay,
there's other things in there that was really, really funny. So I think it really gets good.
Yeah, I might have to watch that.
And that was our Thanksgiving week episode. Basically, it was like a complete parody episode of like an old school like 70s or 80s wrestling promotion. Really liked it.
Yeah, and I mean, when we look at MLB, and I don't know, I don't have anything else to say about this piece of crap. But when it's probably one of the greatest, the same match every, probably one of my favorite wrestlers in the promotion, it just was released, and then you've got Marlon Myrie, yeah, who I like, but he's really stuck in a gimmick that's not going to help him move forward. And the only real thing that I can even say positive about it now is the weird little Tom Lawler heel turn. Other than that, there's not much to really like about MLW anymore, which is sad because I was really enjoying. I mean, that was my favorite promotion of the last 10 years, not less than a year ago.
Yeah, but they've lost so much, and they feel so. We shouldn't really care about this, I guess, as wrestling fans, but they feel so small time. It feels like
I don't even care about
every week, and it feels like there's no room for the characters to grow. Mance Warner, who I really enjoy as a character, it feels like he's always in death matches and things like that. He never is actually in a regular wrestling match. And I know we could say the same thing about Sami Callihan for years too, but it just feels like a guy I really enjoy. I've never seen him in a match that I really enjoy because it's always him getting his tongue stapled to shit. It's always the shows always start, like you said, with Injustice doing crazy stuff. We never really see. It doesn't feel like these guys really ever expand out of their niche.
Nobody's growing as a character. It feels like we're watching the same show we were watching 4 months ago.
Right. Exactly.
There's nothing new, and then they try to bring in something new with this women's division, and it fails miserably because they've only got 2 women.
And
you can't have.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you can't have Priscilla Kelly go out there and just beat people up every week. That's not going to make a women's division. And I mean, not just beat people. She beats them up in the back, and she in the backstage and out in the stage. I mean, she's just a lunatic, and all she does is go out there and beat people up with nobody stepping up to face her.
And we were so excited about Contra coming in, and they were great for months, but. Basically ever since Jacob Fatu won the world championship, now they're doing nothing but cheating to win when they were the dominant force in the promotion before he won the championship. They added that mist guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
I can't either.
They teased for 6 months that who brought these guys in. Who's trying to have them take control of the promotion. They completely dropped that. They dropped the Conan angle with the phone. The dynasty appears to be going nowhere again. Now they've cut Teddy Hart, and the Hart Foundation, which was so fun, is not going to be in existence anymore. Or at the most, it'll be 2 members. Brian Pillman's a jackass. So I mean, there's just so much.
And
Austin Aries was there for 3 matches. He was touted to be coming in. He was there for 3 matches. And it just feels like it's not the same promotion that you and I followed for the last year and a half.
No, it's not. And then when you look at like MJF, who was the shining star of that entire promotion, he's not there anymore, and they replace him with somebody bigger than Hammerstone. There are some talented guys there. I think if you look at Holiday and Hammerstone, I wonder how they're going to continue to grow without MJF there. But they've grown by leaps and bounds over the last few years. I thought Pillman, regardless of how he treated you, I thought he was getting better. I was liking the way the low-key character's going, but it all seems stagnant. It's like ever since Sami Callihan left, all Mace Warner can do is be in death matches against Jimmy Havoc.
Yep.
That's literally every single week. That's all he does. It's Jimmy Havoc, Jimmy Havoc, Jimmy Havoc. It's like, can there be anybody other than Jimmy Havoc that he wrestles?
Wouldn't that be something? And that's one thing that I think this promotion has done overall that's kind of gotten to me is these feuds. Not only do they last forever, which wouldn't be a bad thing, except for that we get basically the same matches. It feels like every week for months on end. It was the Hart Foundation versus the Dynasty. And now it seems like it's Injustice taking on the same 3 other luchadors on a weekly basis, and it's like these feuds never seem to actually go anywhere.
And I get it; they do have a much smaller roster, but you can continue a feud without having each other. It's one of the biggest complaints we've had about the WWE forever. It's like their feuds are the same 2 guys in matches against each other every single week. They don't have to be in the match every single week. Maybe Myron Reed could take on somebody who's not a luchador for a week, and Gringo Loco can do a run-in or whatever. Just something to keep that feud going without actually having them in a match every single week.
Yep. And the other thing is, I just totally lost it now. With Mance Warner, you talked about him in that feud with Jimmy Havoc. Well, that stemmed from what was actually like a really cool storyline going on, which was that he was going through the entire the
promotion was
Delorado stable, but he just went through it way too quickly.
Well, he didn't go through anybody. He beat up Ricky Hernandez, who disappeared forever afterwards, and then he's been stuck on Jimmy Havoc ever since. He never got in there against El Hijo or L.A. Park or any of these other like Damian Says. He never got in there against those guys.
No,
I don't count that. Yeah, in a triple threat with Jimmy Havoc.
No, I thought
but not one.
Say's first match was against him, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay, maybe it was. I don't know. It just seemed like they had a great storyline with him avenging the loss of his friend. And they dropped the ball on it, and then now they just stuck him with. But then again, too, everybody else in that is now either injured or their contract's up, so they're back in AAA or something.
Yeah, that's
And then what about this? They pumped up this working relationship with AAA. How they're going to have all these super shows, and they're going to have exchanging talent. Why has there not been anyone from AAA on the show? They've got freaking Killer Cross there, who people in America are dying to see again. Why not have him on an episode?
I would love that. I would love that a lot.
They have access to him, and even if his contract says he can't wrestle in the U.S. or whatever, he can cut a promo. He can do something, anything.
I don't know. I don't know how that works as far as how the contracts work. As can he be on national television or not?
Well, they don't have national television. They have a YouTube channel and a Florida only station.
I'm not sure about that. I think there are other places I can get that station. You
sports?
probably get that station.
No, I can't.
Have you tried?
Yeah.
Because I know that like. Bully Ray mentioned on back when I used to listen to whatever the hell his show is again. When I used to listen to that, he had mentioned he could get it on his system.
All right, it's a global network of sports channels owned and operated by BN Media Group.
Okay.
You can watch it on Fubo, Sling, bnsports.com. But it doesn't look like any of the major carriers really carry it. It's kind of more like Access was 4 or 5 years ago before they became national.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're a TV network. They're made up of a lot of global sports channels, but when it comes to Fox Sports, I think they're kind of taking the back seat to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, you think Teddy Hart's done now?
After the whole Tom Lawler bullshit, I guess I don't believe it until I see him show up somewhere else.
That's what I meant.
But,
do you think he's like done as a professional wrestler on a major level now? Because this was kind of, nobody ever thought he'd get another shot, and now he gets a shot with MLW, and now he's getting a job there.
When you look him up, he's actually been fairly active, and not independently. He's actually been in some decent-sized promotions over the last 15 years. He had that year and a half where he was in jail over that, and I guess from what it sounds like is that's where a lot of this is stemming from. Is he's been in kind of a legal battle with MLW because in 2016 when he went to jail, they didn't have his back and let people know where he was actually at, that he was actually there, and he couldn't have done those things. But I mean, when you look at his career here, he spent time in the early part of the 2000s. Well, 95, 98, he was in WWF. He was in Ring of Honor and TNA for a couple of years. Then he was in MLW. Then he went to Jersey All Pro Wrestling for 3 years, which that's an independent one, but that also was where he met like Jack Evans and Homicide and B-Boy and guys like that. Jim Neidhart was there for a while, granted at the end of his career, but he met a lot of guys there that helped him when he went back to WWE in the mid 2000s, and then he was in AAA for quite a while, for 3 or 4 years. So I mean, he's been on decent stages. It's just that we haven't really known where to see him.
Yeah, I guess when I say a major promotion, I mean someplace that we're going to watch as North American wrestling fans. And yes, I understand Jersey All Pro was basically for a long time, like, other than maybe CZW and PWG and ROH, like the big, quote unquote North American indie promotion. I'm well aware of that. But
yeah, and I mean,
but still, I mean, it's not like he had some place where there was an actual
audience
program for North American to follow, like we've been, like MLW has been, and like, they've gotten a decent amount of press in the last year or so since we started following them. But
right, and I could see him maybe showing up on Impact, but I think as far as a major promotion, he won't be in AEW or WWF. I can't even see him going to Japan.
Well,
but I could maybe
not
see
in Japan, at least.
Yeah, I could see him being in Impact for a while. Maybe even going back to Ring of Honor until they fold.
He'd actually probably be a really good fit for DDT, honestly.
For where?
For DDT in Japan.
Yeah, probably. I think he'd fit well in Noah as well.
Yeah, probably. But yeah,
I
don't see him in AEW or Ring of Honor or NXT, for instance.
I could see him in maybe getting into Ring of Honor. Just he won't be in any WWF ring. That won't happen again. He's one of those that's probably finally blackballed after his last little tirade.
Well, I gotta be
fine, brown bald. I don't care. At this point, it doesn't matter. I just want to go to bed. But yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't really see him going anywhere. And that was kind of the thing we said about Tom Lawler. I mean, Tom Lawler 6 to 8 months ago, if he had been released or quit or whatever, yeah, I could have saw him in 5 different promotions. But he had such a bad run after winning the title that the only place that he really made sense going to was back to MLW. And it's kind of the same way with Hart, with Teddy Hart right now. It's the only place that makes sense for him to be.
It is. I mean, I don't see why any other promotion would take a risk on him, honestly.
No, because you don't know. I mean, unless they continue with the gimmick that they started in MLW with him being an asshole backstage. That was.
So I just don't see why anybody would take a chance on him.
Well, there's no point. He doesn't bring anything. Go ahead.
I was going to say he's burned so many bridges over the years,
Well, not just that. He doesn't bring anything special to the ring. He doesn't really have that charisma that most promotions are looking for. He definitely shouldn't be the spokesperson for any kind of stable. But he does put on decent matches. And a lot of the promotions that are bigger promotions, you need to be able to do more than just put on a decent match these days.
He puts on decent matches depending on what you're looking for.
And depending on who he's in the ring with.
I mean, yeah, there are times where he does put on a really solid match, but for the most part, what he's going to provide you is basically a spot monkey type of thing. Not always, but a lot of the time, that's what he does.
Which is why maybe his best move would be going to Mexico, maybe back to AAA or even CMLL.
Right. I mean,
and that might.
And I realize that when I say, and I just want to emphasize when I'm saying that yeah, we've seen him put on better matches than that in the last time where he's actually told a great story. but
Right.
his bread and butter is really being a spot monkey.
Yeah, because he's really talented at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really talented.
Of course he's. I'm not trying to take anything away from him by saying that. I'm just saying that's how he is. All right, so let's talk about the other guy that got released this week.
Well, there were actually 3 others, and before we get on this guy, because I have a feeling this is probably going to end the show, but of course there were the other 3, Ascension, which ever since they got their call up in 2014, they're never going to amount to anything. Unfortunately, if they stay in this Ascension gimmick, they'll never, ever make it anywhere. And Sin Cara is just another guy who's been buried for so long that I can't see him ever catching on and being a big time star at this point in his career.
Okay, so the Ascension and Sin Cara are guys that I didn't even know still had a job, so their releases don't count.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. And I thought that they gave up on the Sin Cara thing when they started running Humberto out there, but I guess not. So, but
Did you say
and then
Humberto?
Humberto, Hum.
Oh, okay.
Because he's been in a feud with AJ Styles and whatever. Regardless, and the other thing that I really wanted to touch on is the Hall of Fame that was announced this year, which is Batista, which I don't have a problem with. But the other one was the NWO. Now, a lot like the issue we had with the 4 Horsemen is which version of the NWO do you go with? Do you go with only the 3?
I think
do you draw a line somewhere? Or do you expand it to the original, 6 members, well, 5, cut it off at the Giant?
I would say if it were me, it would only be Hogan, Hall, and Nash.
That's who it should be, because that's where the whole NWO should have ended, with those 3. But you know how they do crazy things.
Yeah, but I. You really think they would put the Giant in there? I don't think they'd put the Giant in there.
I don't know. It would be a way for them to get DiBiase in. DiBiase's not in.
DiBiase should be a $1 million man, though.
DiBiase should be in it. Not that I remember seeing. I could be wrong. I am on a lot of cold medicine right now, so.
I mean, you're probably right. It just kind of surprises me if that's the case.
All I remember is when Coco Beware was inducted, I was pissed because DiBiase wasn't in yet, and I haven't heard DiBiase go in since. So.
Well, I was totally against Coco Beware being inducted into the Hall of Fame, but
for his WWE work.
But my wife and kids and I were at that Hall of Fame ceremony, and my wife got such a kick out of Frankie shitting on the podium that I have to just have it as a ringing endorsement now for me, just because of the enjoyment my wife got out of it. So.
I mean, Coco Beware should be in a wrestling Hall of Fame, but not as the Birdman in his WWF run. He was so good in World Class Championship Wrestling and a lot of these other promotions before he went to WWF that he deserved to be in. Same thing with the Bushwhackers.
I don't care about any of that.
Same thing with the Bushwhackers. I think they should be in too for their wrestling acumen, not necessarily the fact that they were the Bushwhackers.
Yeah. There was somebody else like that, like Alundra
Terry
Blaze.
Von Erich.
Well, I say Alundra Blaze is on the Hall of Fame, but not Medusa.
Well, they're the same person.
I know, but she was inducted as Alundra Blaze, was my point.
I think that's because that was her WWF gimmick.
Not always. She was only Alundra Blaze for, 2 years?
And she was the champion for those 2 years.
Right, but she was also Medusa. Wasn't she also the champion as Medusa before that?
No.
Are you
Medusa
sure?
Maselli? I don't think she was Medusa Maselli in... I thought that was her indie name before she came to WWF.
I swear I remember watching Medusa take out Wendy Richter at one point.
No, that was Alundra Blaze. You're talking about the WrestleMania match?
No.
Oh.
Maybe.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, enough nostalgia
it doesn't
for us.
matter. No, I didn't. I had not seen the Hall of Fame inductions. I have no problem with Batista being inducted to the Hall of Fame, obviously.
I don't either. I think he had a hell of a career.
And he's probably one of the few people that are left that's a headliner that they could pick. I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised that they're doing the NWA the same year they're doing Batista, because they could probably use you could use the NWA as another headliner later on down the road.
What?
Oh, it's in Florida though, isn't it? That's why.
Boo? You can have some. Yeah, that
the NWA
they have
in Florida, and they're in Florida. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
But why not go with Batista next year? If that's the case. I mean, you're right. I don't know what other main eventers they could possibly put in. I think they have all the main eventers in now.
Well, there's one guy left.
But he's still actively wrestling, isn't he?
Not if it's the guy I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of just kind of returned to the fold a few weeks ago.
Okay, I might not know who that is then.
Well, I was thinking, CM Punk.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. If you're going to be done with the WWF, be done with the WWF.
I know, but is he done with the WWE? That's the thing.
I don't know.
And that's why I'm
is
saying that there's a possibility that in a year's time he'll be the headliner.
Is DDP in?
DDP's in.
Is he? Okay. I couldn't remember if he was in or not.
I want to say he went in the very first year of the network, so like 2004. But I remember seeing his speech on there.
2004? The network didn't come out in 2004?
2014, excuse me.
Okay, that's a little better. I was going to say, I bought it the weekend it came out, and I don't remember it coming out back then.
No, I had it within hours that it came out. So.
Yeah, I did too. But the only other, well, it's the same thing with Disney Plus. I think Disney Plus went live at midnight. I had it by 1 a.m. I was on that.
We actually were going to buy it as a preview, but you couldn't do the bundle, and you couldn't do the bundle preview. You couldn't do the bundle until it actually was available. So.
Well, yeah, and since I had, I already had Hulu, and I've always wanted the ESPN Plus. It was a no-brainer for me to just get the whole package.
Yeah, that's true. I probably won't use ESPN Plus very much, but I've used it a lot lately because I'm a big Duke basketball fan, and I've been able to watch the games on there.
I've been able to watch hockey games on it. I'm loving that. I was actually thinking of buying the NHL package. Now I don't need to. They seem to have a hockey game on every other day. Granted, it's not always my team, but...
Nobody ever needs to buy the hockey package.
Oh, I do.
You had to know something like that was coming.
I have to buy the hockey package if I can ever afford it. I mean, Jesus, I have 2 major trips planned for next year.
Do you really see the Ascension getting a job anywhere?
No. I mean, they have been destroyed so badly by the booking on the main roster that this isn't like Simon Gotch, where he was able to catch on somewhere. These guys just, they're looked at as a complete joke right now, and they were not very good wrestlers before that.
No, they weren't. That's I guess these are kind of an example of people that are put in that mold of trying to be the next Legion of Doom, and it almost never works. So.
The only team I think it's worked for is the War Raiders. Well, whatever they are now.
Yeah, that's a good example of one that worked. I totally agree. I can agree with that.
I think that's about the only one that's ever worked. I mean, the Ascension, they pushed so heavy in NXT and made them these unstoppable guys, but the reality is they're both little guys. Neither one of these guys are big and intimidating. Not by wrestling standards. I mean, if I were to walk up to them, I'd be scared as shit. Right. But by wrestling standards, they don't put the fear of God into any other wrestlers. They actually look tiny compared to most wrestlers.
Yes, they do.
So it's not like they were put in the best position to begin with, and they were made this dominant force that could go through anybody. And then, when they came to the main roster, people that were jokes like the Colognes were standing up to them.
That is another excellent point by you.
So, I have so few of them. It's nice when I do.
I know. I was gonna say I don't know what's going on today with all these excellent points from you.
Right. No, the one that I think is going to pretty much end it all here is Harper. I mean, he finally got his release, but is it too much or too little, too late with him?
Yes, I think it is.
I think if he'd gotten his...
What is he, like late 30s, early 40s?
He's 39 now.
Okay, I was
actually...
I think he was like 38, so yeah, I had it right up.
He turns 40 4 days after my birthday.
Okay.
So he's almost 40 years old is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah. And, if he was released like 5 years ago, I could see it, and he was always super talented. I loved his character as Brody Lee, and I always thought he was the most talented member of the Wyatt family, even including Bray Wyatt. But, they never saw him that way.
I think they tried to see him that way, but he ended up getting hurt, and when he came back, he was just never the same guy. They tried to spark it twice with him getting back together, once with the Wyatt family, and then once with just Eric Rowan with the Bruise Brothers. But then was it Bruise Brothers? I can't remember what it was, but regardless, they tried to bring him back a couple of... Bludgeon Brothers is who it was. They tried to bring him back a couple of times, and he just never really... They kept trying to break him off and make him into a singles guy. Or he would get hurt at the wrong time. The funny thing about Luke Harper is I think if Luke Harper had been released back in April and May, when he initially asked for his release, I think he would have been, at the time, with a very small AEW roster, he would have been one of the guys that they would have picked up. He would have been a top mid-carder, maybe borderline main eventer right out the gate, and I think he could have performed. I don't think he's too old that he can't perform. I just don't think that now is the best. There's really no place. There's nothing outside of maybe Impact that has a spot for him. And I guess I just don't know if he's, where his head's at.
And if he went into Impact, you could easily see him just becoming the fifth member of OVE,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's where he would fit best, because he's got that kind of attitude and everything.
Right, but if that's the case, then he's no better off than when he was Luke Harper, so what's the point?
Right, exactly.
Other than
I guess I could...
Which I guess, which obviously is important, but...
But he's never really been a guy that's been great on the mic that I've seen. Anyway, I guess I don't know how he was as Brody Lee.
That's what I disagree with. I think he was great on the mic, and I always thought he was the best talker of the Wyatt family.
Oh, no, I can't say that. Not with the way Bray was. Not with the way Bray is now, yes, but with the way Bray was, especially in their NXT run, there wasn't a better talker in the industry at that time.
Oh yeah, I completely disagree with that.
His stuff was weird, but it was captivating. It was chilling and captivating. It was stuff that where he was, the way he was talking in nursery rhymes or whatever it was he was saying, was just had you on the edge of your seat at all times. And I don't know anybody else around that time that was that good. I mean, CM Punk, that was about the end of his career. And he was still a good talker, but I felt like Bray was just on that level, maybe a little bit higher. And I don't know anybody else that would have been on that level at that time.
That's okay. You're allowed to be wrong.
I don't know. Can you tell me? Because I was 14, 15. I'm trying to think back. The only person that I know around that time that was as good a talker as Bray was CM Punk. And he wasn't around very long.
I would say that the way that you're phrasing it is incorrect. I would say that of the guys that had the opportunity to talk on the mic, Bray was probably the best. But if you think back to the times that Harper had a chance to actually talk, he was at least as good as Bray, if not better.
I guess it's hard to say that because Bray would go out and have a 5-minute promo where Rowan would come out and say 2 or 3 lines.
Harper,
he was not... Yeah, Harper. He would, and Rowan's another one. I mean, Rowan, when they broke him up and had them all individuals, all he did come out, solve a Rubik's Cube, and say how smart he was.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really put a gauge on just how great of a talker he is when he's getting force-fed comedy lines. And I never thought Harper was given those force-fed comedy lines, but I could never see him as being that kind of guy that could carry a crowd for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, the way that Bray could, the way that CM Punk could, the way that even Daniel Bryan could towards the end of his first run.
And I think it's simply the fact that we never saw Harper get a chance to do it.
And that's possible. I'm just saying, from the little bit that I did see, I could never see him being that guy.
And I'm saying from a little bit that we did, I did see him being that guy, and I always wondered why they never gave him a better shot at that role. Well,
Vince, it's Vince.
But I mean, but obviously he had great matches pretty much every time out.
Oh yeah, I mean that I will give him. He's very talented in the ring. I hope he does catch on. I mean, he's 40. He's made a ton of money. He could be happy just riding off into the sunset.
Yeah, absolutely. And who could blame him for that?
Exactly.
I just don't think he's ever going to be the star that I thought he was going to be.
No, and that's because he's been kind of a second fiddle for the majority of his career, and now, like you said, now he's pushing 40. Very rarely do you get a guy like Batista who breaks off as a main eventer after he turns 38, 39.
Right.
Very rarely does that happen. I mean, Batista was a rare breed that for some reason he had such ridiculous charisma, and he was able to tell stories in a way that you didn't expect a guy his size to tell stories. Like when you see a guy that size, you expect Brock Lesnar, you expect Goldberg, you didn't expect him to sell the way that he sold. Mm-hmm. Considering he was,
and people forget, because the way history has gone, but there was a time where there was real debate as to who was going to be the bigger superstar, him or John Cena.
And he legitimately could have done it if he wouldn't have walked away.
Right. Well, if he hadn't walked away and he hadn't got injured at that, he basically got injured at the wrong time too.
Yeah, he got injured after that feud with Cena, and then walked away from wrestling and was nowhere around. And Cena at that point, had another 6 years before Batista even made a slight comeback.
Yep.
So Cena was able to build up a lot more momentum because. Yeah, and I think maybe the Batista leaving might have been what got Randy Orton to that point too. Would Randy Orton ever gotten to that point if they didn't desperately need a main event player after Batista quit or got injured?
Randy Orton is a weird one that we'd probably have to do like an entire episode on, just because it depends on when you're talking about. If the stuff with if the stuff that happened, after SummerSlam 2004 didn't happen to Orton, then maybe he would have been on a trajectory similar to Cena.
Yeah, possibly.
But because of the way he was kind of like pushed down the card after winning the world title, so that Triple H he was just a transitional champion for Triple H. It kind of takes away what he could have done in his career, in my opinion, at that point of that career.
And not only that, it was shortly after Batista won the title from Triple H that he switched brands. Randy Orton never got that chance to switch brands. I think if Randy had switched brands in 2004, maybe he would have been that next big star. Instead of, like you said, being fed to Triple H during the Powerrr trip.
Yeah, exactly. And, getting back to Batista, you and I talked last week about, like, best heel or most memorable heel turns, worst heel turns. But I'll say that one of the biggest pops I ever heard was when Batista turned on Triple H. And chose him to have that. When he won the Royal Rumble and he decided to face Triple H for the title.
Yeah, when he gave him the thumbs down.
Yeah.
That was a good moment. But yeah, it's really weird when you look back at a guy like him and you compare him to a guy like Harper, who I think Harper has all the tools. I just don't think he's got that overbearing charisma that could drive him to the main event right now, where Batista did have it.
Possibly. I mean, Batista definitely did have it. It's possible about Luke Harper, and just at this point of his career, he definitely doesn't.
No, no. Which is sad. I really hope he does catch on. I'd like to see him someplace, add back to his Brody Lee character, maybe see him with a little bit more mic time. He's incredibly talented even now.
Yeah, I just don't know where I'd want to see him, because I don't think I want to see him in AEW, just because I really want to push the younger guys now.
Right. Impact with maybe a tag team with him and Fulton would really beef up that tag team division.
That is true.
Possibly Ring of Honor. He could come in as another Briscoe and easily sell that.
Well, the ROH crowd are going to remember Brody Lee. So.
Oh yeah, I know, but still, it would. He could come in as a long lost Briscoe brother or cousin or whatever, and completely fit that mold after his Wyatt family run.
Or if Marty Scurll's leaving, he could be another member of Villain Enterprises too.
Yeah, true. That's true. Him and that's a tag team I'd like to see. Him and Brody Clay, or Brody Clay, Brody King.
Yeah.
I've had Brody Coyle on my mind for some reason all day long, so I've been getting those two mixed up.
Oh, I thought you were thinking of Brodus Clay.
No, not Brody Clay. I haven't thought about him in 15 years, and I thank you for bringing him up, because now I'm going to think about him for the rest of the day.
You are welcome.
Jackass. All right. Well, you got anything else on this one?
I do not. I think you should tell everybody where they can listen to us at.
Unfortunately, this is kind of a down episode. There really wasn't a whole lot of things to talk about, except for I feel like we spent a little too much time on the negative. But that being said, we do mainly we spend a lot more time on the positive, and you can catch all of those replays on our Patreon channel. Patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. All of our archive stuff is there, including our last. Well, now with Dynamite, I keep our last 10 episodes up. Since we do 2 a week, you get 5 weeks of episodes for free, and then it moves to an archive. You can access our archive by giving us a very, very small donation of $5 a month. Helps us out, gives you guys access to a ton of content. And if that content's not enough, we do exclusive shows. In fact, we're going to do one as soon as we hang up here. We're going to do our next episode, Jessica Jones. That'll be up probably tomorrow. I'm not feeling good, so I probably won't get it up today, but I'll get it up tomorrow. And that's in our exclusive tier, our $10 a month tier. And, $10 a month subscription to us or donation to us, that helps us out huge. And if you think about it, you're getting a ton of talent that's worth it, and a ton of exclusive talent. You can also follow us on Twitter. I'm at Regi Co-op.
You mean content?
Content, talent, I don't know. Dude, I have so much medication in me right now. I should not have taken that shot of NyQuil.
Does that work on these days?
Oh, that's all the alcohol that comes near my body now. But the where was I? At Regi Co-op for me on Twitter, at Zanman LOP for that guy over there. Also use hashtag DAD for Dynamite After Dark and hashtag KOH for Kingdom of Honor. Those two hashtags make every one of my posts, and it's the easiest way to find both of us. YouTube.com/Kingdom of Honor. We throw up these episodes end up hitting there within an hour after we hang up. So this episode should be up by I want to say about 9:30, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. You can get on there and you can listen to that while YouTube is playing in the background or whatever, and share that with your friends. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button on the video. The more likes and subscribes we get, the sooner it's going to be that we'll actually start broadcasting live on there, a lot like Imp does. Which is a lot of fun when you get a chance to actually see it. So, check out those 3 sites, and that's probably the best way to get a hold of us.
Absolutely. And make sure you stay tuned to all the other LOP radio shows. Global Impact the Revolution should be back sooner or later. Sports Entertainment is Dead on Wednesdays. Also, as Jeff just mentioned, Dynamite After Dark, right after Dynamite goes off the air, is our show that's on Wednesdays. On Thursdays is Imp show that, again, Jeff just mentioned, called Imp's LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday is The Right Side of the Pond, and then we'll be back with you next week to talk probably mostly about Final Battle, I'm guessing. As that's the ROH's, supposedly biggest show of the year, and their pay-per-view that's going to happen on Friday.
And depending on my motivation, we might talk a little bit about Into the Fire as well.
Well, you might. I won't be watching it.
I'm at least going to watch that Drake Anderson match.
I shouldn't say I'm not going to watch it, but I almost certainly won't watch it next weekend.
I don't. Like I said, depends on the motivation. But then again, I guess if you're not going to watch it, then I won't either. So there.
Yeah, well, we're having my granddaughter over next weekend, so I just don't think I'll take the time to watch it. I'd rather spend time with her. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Makes sense. I would rather do that as well.
You haven't even met my granddaughter yet.
No, I haven't. One of these days we'll have to.
My point was that you hadn't met her yet, but you'd rather spend time with her than watch Into the Fire.
Yes. I'd rather spend time with both of my exes in the same room than watch. Well, all three of my exes in the same room than watch Into the Fire.
Ouch.
Right. That's tough.
All right, that's all we've got.
Anyway.
We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.
G1 Climax 27. Goodbye. And good night. Bang.